transmaxing applies to all transitions except forced feminizing, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that happens very often. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe it happens in Iran, actually, because they prefer you to be trans than gay. But
I don't know. Wait, does that actually happen there? What the hell? I
yeah,
think it does.
yeah, they're so committed to the gender binary. They're like, we'd rather you just be a woman than sleep with men.
That's anti-centrism.
Your political orientation, politics. How does your mind interface with politics? A lot of people look at the transmaxing framework and they think, okay, trans stuff, that's left wing. Oh, but the incel stuff is right wing. And so their brains break when they try to conceptualize it. And we can get into that broader, but I'm wondering, you specifically, do you have political leaning one way or the other? Or just answer, and like, politically, how do you think about politics? You don't have to tell me specifically, like, you know, this ideology or that ideology, but how does your mind interface with politics? You can answer this in a broad level or on like a more granular, specific level.
Yeah. Well, okay. I'm gonna make a slightly memey joke because I don't want to give away the actual answer, but
Okay.
I like to believe that I'm a true American. You know, I really believe in freedom and equality for all, and you know, just everybody being worth the same amount. Unfortunately, you know, the systems at play, they don't always play out like that, but I do believe in American ideals like that. Freedom of bodily autonomy. You know, everybody deserves medical autonomy. I just believe that freedom is a very important thing for a lot of people.
Okay, that's a good answer. I accept it. I accept your answer. Now, I want to take it from politics to brain, neurodivergence.
Yeah.
Schizotypy, autism, any other mental illnesses? Do you have them? Do you identify with them? Do you want to talk about them?
I don't know if I have them. My doctor says I don't, but
Do you identify with any of those frames? Schizophrenia, schizotypy being hyperlateral connections, seeing the world in a very kind of like, I'm constantly on mushrooms sort of vibe. Autism being like getting really deep into rabbit holes, super deep into subcultures, like 1,000 steps down the dopamine rabbit hole. Do either of those sound like you, or do you feel like you have a more or less rounded brain?
I would say they both sound. Here's the hard part, right? How do I gauge my own brain? My own brain is just my own brain. I don't know.
You have other people as well that might have observed these things in you. Other people, for example, here, I'll give you an example. I'll make this really clear. If you have 20 friends and they all tell you you're autistic, you're probably autistic.
Oh, I thought they were just joking. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. In the past, all of my friends would call me autistic and the R word a bunch. So I guess I identify with those a little bit. And now people say that I make like schizo posts. So
you're autismophrenic, basically.
I guess.
I mean, that's what it sounds like if you've got traits of both. But again, it's up to you what you identify with. If you identify with neither, you identify with neither.
I identify with all of the terms as long as they're non-stigmatizing, because I am pro neurodivergence, not pro stigmatizing. I'm pro freedom, remember?
Right. So pro neurodivergence. So that sounds about right in terms of autismophrenia. That's just my attempt to make everything fit in my own autistic frameworks, which I don't have. I don't have autism because I'm normal now. So here, let me ask you a question. Is all male to female transitions transmaxing? And if not, I want to hear an example of a transition that is not a transmax.
Somebody who's forcibly medically transitioned is probably not a transmax.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you like go to jail and they're like, you're going to become a girl and you're like, no. And then they make you do it anyway. That's probably not a transmax.
That's the future liberals want.
That is the future liberals want. And that's why liberals are un-American.
Hate to hear it. All right, I feel like in terms of your life story, we got halfway through and we have bits and pieces. 2 minutes, I'm not going to talk. You tell me your entire life story, start to finish. Go.
What do you mean? I was born and then I was a kid and then like, I don't know. I was just a kid. I was not a very happy kid. I thought too much. I was in my brain too much. And then I had a lot of girlfriends. I learned how to be a guy. And then I went to college and I realized that I didn't like being a guy still. And then I dropped out of college because COVID and mental illness. And then I started becoming a girl. And then now I'm a girl and it's more base than it used to be. And I'm figuring it all out.
A good speed run there. That wasn't so hard, was it?
It was a little bit difficult.
How long have you been transitioning /transition?
I've been transitioning since February of 2021.
For a couple years.
2 years.
When did you start thinking about transitioning?
Actively or like?
Actively.
I wish wake up as a girl tomorrow, but like I'm not calling it transitioning because I don't know about like, well,
How long have you had dysphoria for? For like forever?
oh, retroactively or that I knew it was dysphoria. Retroactively, I think I've been dysphoric since I was like 8. Maybe a little bit older. Like when my physical puberty started, probably is when like things started to like ramp up, maybe. I don't know. And then like actively knowing it was dysphoria when I would read trans forums and I'd be like, wow, I really wish I was like them. Like 16 maybe, I don't know. 15.
So you found out about Transmaxing Manifesto first, right? And then incels?
I spent a lot of time on 4chan when I was young. So like I was in decently adjacent spaces for longer than probably was good for my mental health. But I think I knew about incels a lot sooner than I knew about transmaxing. But transmaxing is like, I don't know. The idea of transmaxing is not new. It's just like the label of transmaxing.
The idea of transmaxing is not new. I don't want to unpack that. How old is it then?
I think for almost as long as I've been transitioning, there have been people that have desired to improve their lives through transitioning. I'll let you read that how you want to.
Here's what I'm trying to get at. The term transmaxing applies to all transitions except forced feminizing, which, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that happens very often. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe it happens in Iran, actually, because they prefer you to be trans than gay. But
I don't know. Wait, does that actually happen there? What the hell? I
yeah,
think it does.
Yeah, they're so committed to the gender binary. They're like, we'd rather you just be a woman than sleep with men.
That's anti-centrism.
It's something. I don't know what exactly that is. I'm trying to get at, like, is this a useful term then? If all transitions from male to female transmaxing?
Personally, yes, because earlier you mentioned that trans people are on the left, and transmaxing is meant to be an apolitical thing. Anybody can transmax, but if you feel like...
Yeah. I really don't think so. I do not associate being transgender with being on the left. I think those are different spectrums. What I was saying there is that I think that the common, like, if you ask a random person on the street about transmaxing and they're trying to grapple with that idea, their knowledge of incels will be right-wing misogynistic incels, and left-wing trans people. So they have a hard time conceptualizing it.
And I agree with you, right? So like with that same example, if you were a right-wing incel, right? Like, let's pretend you are a right-wing incel for a second. Are you ever going to concede to the leftists in transition?
Right.
Probably not. But if there's an apolitical way for you to transition, maybe that can help you escape your inceldom.
Interesting. So transmaxing is an inherently apolitical thing.
It is, like, officially, it's apolitical. I'm 99% sure.
That sounds about right. It's a question to me as to whether or not it's neither side or if it's both sides at the same time, which is partially why I'm interested in the phenomenon in the first place.
You think it's both or neither?
Well, if you had asked me while I was an anti-centrist, in my anti-centrist phase, I would have said both. But now that I'm an apolitical centrist, I love to hear it. So yeah, it's definitely neither.